Hey y'all, Paper Anomaly here. So, I wanted to make this video, one as an update, two as a somewhat rant type video, because I've had a lot of things on my mind lately. Um, so, I'll just get into it, because I'll get off track if I try to explain what I'm doing. So, everything with the transition is going good. Finally starting to get more facial hair on my cheeks up here, getting some 5 o'clock shadow in, finally, instead of just some peach fuzz on my chin. I'm trying to sculpt up my upper chest a little bit more, which is turning out okay. I found out that the reason why I wasn't gaining so much muscle before was because I just wasn't eating enough. So now that I'm eating enough, getting a lot more muscle, getting a lot more weight gain, so all that's good. I'm helping another buddy of mine out with his transition right now. I just showed him how to do his own thigh injections this past Tuesday, and everything went pretty well. I'm trying to get a new job, so, rat race and all that shit. But here's the important part of what I wanted to get to this video about. There's such a startling lack of support and validation for transgenderism and transgender issues on YouTube. What I have found was a surplus of media videos, interviews, transgender kids getting harassed, but not really any scientific discussions about the biology and the genetics and the human biology that's involved with transgender, and how on a genetic sense that all these scared out of their minds cishet crybabies keep bitching about doesn't support transgender because it's not in their genetics are the same genetics that tell them to shut the fuck up because they have no idea what the hell they're talking about. The reason why I'm so adamant about this is my brother-in-law, he has a doctorate's degree in experimental psychology. His name is Adam Hutchison. You can Google him. And I talk, every time I go to see him, I talk a lot about my concerns with transgender, because even if we transgender people know how valid we are, there are some days that, the mindless mooing of the sheep just get to us after a while, and we start to question ourselves. And I think it's extremely important, it's imperative almost, for us to keep our level-headedness and our knowledge about us when we're confronted with narrow-minded people who insist they aren't bigots, but then just announce their bigotry all that harder when they say, I'm not a bigot, you're entitled to your opinions, but you're still a female or a male, no matter, what you think of yourself. And I'm like, okay, well, if you're not a bigot, then you must be open-minded enough to be willing to learn something about transgender that you didn't know before. Oh, fuck you and your SJW bullshit. Next thing you know, they'll start letting pedophilia and bestiality into law. One, no. Pedophilia and bestiality are actually illegal and predatory behaviors. Transgender, the disorder of transgender has absolutely nothing to do with anybody else but the person experiencing it. So anyway, I like to talk to my brother-in-law Adam a lot. He's kind of like my rock in all this. One, he's super fucking smart. Two, he doesn't have any time for anybody's bullshit. And neither do I. So it kind of works out for both of us. a lot of conservatives like to argue that there's only two genders, period. No, that is absolutely false. There is no XXXY chromosome pairing that can only result in cisgender heterosexual human beings. There are XXY chromosome pairings. There are XYY chromosome pairings. And yes, while those do have diseases linked to them resulting from those chromosomes, it's not like human beings walk around judging people by their chromosomes because we can see their chromosomes. You don't look at the chromosomes all over a person's face. You don't look at the tint of DNA on their skin. You don't, you just, you look at a person as they are. You look at a person as the whole thing put together. And the entire body and all of evolutionary biology is based on all of these things merging together to create a human being. So let's go to, oh boy, well, no, I'm getting on. There's just a lot of things. Even if I'm not, I still need to learn a lot about, the biology, the evolutionary genetics, physiology, biomolecular chemistry, neuroscience. I need to look into all that later. I actually need to ask Adam what books he reads, because I'm pretty sure that all the questions I have for him that I could probably get in the books that he reads, because he reads a lot of fucking books about this shit. So let's look at it from a solo person's perspective, like cisgender heterosexual versus a transgender heterosexual. Just just to make the playing field one thing off kilter. Most often than not, a cisgender person will walk up or go on a video of a transgender person and say, that's fine, you can call yourself whatever you want, but at the end of the day, you're still just a girl, wearing a tie and calling herself a guy. You're still a woman, or you're still a guy wrapping a skirt around his wiener and trying to, pray your way into the women's locker room, trying to go after my 6-year-old little girl, and I ain't having that. You're still just a circus freak, pedophile dude looking to take advantage of somebody. The illogical madness that spews like a geyser from their mouths is so overwhelmingly ignorant and abhorrent that it crests on the border of just the complete delusion that they insist all transgender people are suffering under. And they say, oh, well, if I thought that I was Barack Obama, they'd let me into the White House because I'm Barack Obama. Nobody can tell me how I feel. Well, there's a difference between wanting to become your idol and genuinely feeling as if you're female or male or both or neither. No one can invalidate how you feel. No one can tell you that you are not experiencing what you are clearly experiencing. And if you're experiencing gender dysphoria or anxiety from your transgender, that's fine. And you're not the only one. We're fine with that, and we'll be able to cope with that. But the one thing that will not help is not exploring that possibility of maybe wanting to be the other gender at all. In fact, I think the complete opposite will happen. If you feel like you're female, if you feel like you're male, if you feel like you're both or neither, and someone tells you not to humor it because it's a delusion that's making you sick, the only thing that's going to happen is that you are going to continue to feel dysphoria from the body that you do not feel at home with. The entire dysphoria and anxiety about your body image comes from it not matching the image you have in your mind. So the only way that's going to make that go away is changing it. The only thing that's going to help that dysphoria, that delusion, is going through with your transition or doing whatever you feel makes you comfortable. There's a difference between being recognized as a valid woman, as a valid man by the American Psychology Association, and being sent to the loony bin because you're suffering from Jesus Christ disorder when you decided to visit Jerusalem last year. There is a difference. One is an actual mental disorder, one is an actual medically recognized delusion that you are suffering from. The other one is a state of being that may or may not always be accompanied with gender dysphoria. And if it does, we'll be able to help you. If you don't have gender dysphoria, we'll still be able to help you if you want to transition, if that's your choice. And another thing is that people think, or these people that I talk to on YouTube, I know how pathetic am I battling with random people on YouTube. I'll be perfectly able to admit that I literally have nothing better to do than argue with ignorant, bigot, cis-hets on YouTube. Because I have no fucking job. At least one that's not, demanding 80% of my time. So, I'll do whatever the fuck I want in my free time. Alright? But another mass delusion that they seem to be suffering from is that they think that any person who wants to molest a baby in a Target bathroom in broad daylight is going to go to a doctor, ask for the surgery, get it right then and there, and then just go on their merry way. First of all, what's his name? Rush Limbaugh would be able to tell the difference between some guy that just dressed like a woman and an actual transgender woman. Transgender women aren't pretending. Transgender men are not pretending. Transgender women will make an effort to look feminine. They will make an effort to be female. There's a ladyboy pageant that they hold in Thailand where I know every fucking redneck in this entire state that is petrified of transgenders would be drooling over those guys. And the second they learn that all those tiny-waisted little Asian girls that they continually fetishize over are actually men in women's clothing, they would probably shoot themselves. I forget what the whole fucking point of saying that was. Anyway, oh yeah, I remember. So yeah, there is the biggest redneck in the country would definitely be able to tell the difference between a guy half-assedly dressing like a woman so he can take advantage of a toddler and a woman who is actually a woman. She will have shaved legs, or whatever the hell she does to make herself feel feminine in the way that makes her most comfortable. And they seem to completely miss the fact that transgender goes across both genders. Transgender is not a man who's pretending to be a woman. And transgender is male to female and female to male. And female to male, male to female. It includes both genders. Or both... examples of genitalia. I don't know. I don't fucking know. They've got me so confused. So I guess that's one complete thought. Another issue they have is I'm sorry guys. I've got so many thoughts bouncing around in here. I've been so anxious about this. I've been so frustrated about this. It's very mind-boggling. And it's very frustrating talking to these people because they demand answers, and then you give them the answers they want, and then they turn around and say, I don't have to listen to your SJW bullshit. And it's like, then why the fuck are you here? Why the fuck did you ask me for it if your ungrateful ass is just gonna turn around and say, I don't want to hear it, just to look like an ass? Like, if you don't want to educate yourself, fine. Go back to Kentucky. Who cares? Obviously, nobody cares about whatever. Delusions. Okay, I remember now. If anybody comes at you, a transgender person, saying, you're suffering from a delusion, you're sick, transgender is a mental disorder, you are going to kill yourself because the suicide rate of transgender people is 40% among those of cisgender people, you can say that the APA releases a manual every couple of years or so that is updated on all the experiments that have been conducted in those past couple of years that have either verified or debunked diagnosable medical disorders. Transgender itself was removed from the DSM-5, or the APA's DSM-5, in 2012. That means that as of 2012, the American Psychology Association, the people who do know what the fuck they're talking about when it comes to gender, sex, and sexual identity, or gender identity and sexual orientation, has told the rest of the country to get over themselves because transgender is not a medical illness. It is not a mental disorder. By the most highly acclaimed psychologists in the country, the people to go to with these questions, transgender is not a mental disorder. Period. You can Google this. And yeah, oh, Google's such a valid source. Well, the great thing about Google is whenever they shit out one post that doesn't have any validity whatsoever, they have 20 more to support your claims with actual scientifically backed papers, articles, reviews, everything. Google is there to help and hurt people. So, anyway, as of 2012, the APA dismissed transgender as a diagnosable mental disorder. They say, oh, well, you're still, then why do you want to kill yourself? Well, one of the reasons is probably because of people like you, and two, the other reason is probably because of the severe, severe gender dysphoria that they don't think can be helped. And then they come back with, well, yeah, surgery will never be able to help. Well, yeah, it probably never will, but not every single transgender person is the same. Not all of us represent each other in one colossal whole. Transgenderism and gender identity is as widely expressed and shown as, for, like, every single transgender, what I'm trying to say is every single transgender person out there ever has their own definition of transgenderism. So there's a whole spectrum and range of transgender, from somebody who feels like they are a woman trapped in a man's body or a man trapped in a woman's body, and they don't feel gender dysphoria. Gender dysphoria and transgender are not always hand in hand. Even cisgender people can feel gender dysphoria. A bodybuilder can feel gender dysphoria when he hasn't worked out in a month and all of a sudden he has titties dangling off his pecs. Not Transgender and gender dysphoria do not go hand in hand. So you can have transgender people like that, and then you can have transgender people who want to be their gender counterpart on a chromosomal DNA level, which unfortunately for those people that's not possible at this point, but it's not to say that it never will be possible. And it's unfair to say that you will never be valid because this technology, you and people like you, will never have their gender identity valid because the technology to do what you want to do doesn't exist here and now. That's so unfair and judgmental and damaging, and words and thoughts like that are probably one of the reasons why transgender people have such a high suicide rate and homicide rate. They just can't deal with the rejection, the constant rejection and invalidation and insults thrown at them by people who think they have a clue about what they're talking about, but they have no fucking idea what they're talking about because they've never attended a psychology class, they've never attended a neuroscience class, they never attended a neurobiology class, they've never attended a human biology class, they've never attended a social studies class, like actual social studies of the social culture of America. They've never attended a DNA class. They've never attended an experimental psychology class. They've never experimented a paleoanthropology class. All these people who say, "Oh, I know what I'm talking about," have no idea what the fuck they're talking about. The only reason that I'm making this video is because I know someone on a personal level who knows for a fact and has known for probably longer than I've been alive what the fuck they're talking about when it comes to gender identity, and the psychology surrounding LGBT individuals. So the only thing that I think cisgender people are getting confused about when they call transgender a mental disorder is that they're thinking of gender dysphoria. And like I said earlier, sorry, gender dysphoria is not always hand in hand with transgender. It can be felt by anyone who identifies as anything. I was actually talking to Adam the other day, and he said, as a matter of fact, gender dysphoria itself is on its way out of the DSM. It is so bottom tier on the concern level for as a mental illness that it's about to be kicked out the door of the place that they keep the list of diagnosable mental disorders. Does that make sense? Hope it does. I get a lot of my ideas cross and intersect with each other whenever I start ranting like this, so it's very hard for me to describe things in a linear path that makes any sense. There's a lot of going from A to Z to Q to A again, and then down to L, M, N, P, and then back up to B and C. So anyway, so yeah, basically it boils down to cisgender people, most transphobic cisgender people don't know what the fuck they're talking about when it comes to human evolution, human psychology, human biology, and the whole shebang. They just don't know what the fuck they're talking about, because most of the time I found that people like that don't even bother researching the other side and it's actual medical, psychological, physical evidence of the validity of transgender people and their identities. So they just pull shit out of their ass and hope that we'll just be like, oh my god, really? Oh my god, well, thank you so much, Dr. Ass. Dr. Dipshit. So, and I guess that's another thing you can throw in their face too. Like, if somebody's up in your face telling you that you have a mental disorder and that you need to seek medical attention, just be like, okay, are you willing to give me that medical help, doctor? Because you obviously know what the hell you're talking about. And by the way, did you know that it's illegal to tell somebody that they're suffering from a mental illness when you don't have a doctor or a psychology degree? So, they can actually go to jail for saying that to you, because that in turn can damage somebody so much that they drive themselves to suicide. And then it's a homicide case because somebody told them that they're unnatural, they're diseased, they shouldn't exist, and if they are, they're sick and need help. Then the result is there. So, and another thing you can say is, well, if I do go and see a doctor about my gender dysphoria, about my transgenderism, they're probably going to help me further transition into the gender that I identify as. Because doing the opposite, or not doing anything at all, will make my delusion worse and make my anxiety and self-hate worse. So the thing that they are demonizing us for is the exact thing. The mental disorder that they are demonizing us for is only a mental illness if we go about it the way they suggest we do. So, I know I keep making different points in support of this, but it really, all of this just boils down to transphobic cisgender people don't know what the ever-living fuck they are talking about. And I find it so disgustingly ironic that the same people who say that they aren't bigots, that they aren't transphobic, are the same people who go out of their way to tell transgender people that they are suffering from a mental disorder delusion and need to be thrown into the psycho bin because cisgender people don't want their country to be ripped out from under them to serve the all-selfish transgender people. Oh yeah, all 0.03 of the population of us are so threatening to your, 65 million people in this country? So 0.03 of 65 million, that's in the hundreds of thousands of people, like the entire population of Pennsylvania or some shit like that. So, hang on, I'm getting relaxed here. Getting to be long rant time. So, I don't know why they are so afraid of just admitting that they're wrong. I don't know why they're so petrified of admitting that they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. I don't understand why they are so insistent to be correct about something that they have never experienced, and that they have never bothered to research, and that they have never bothered to get to know. If you aren't willing to educate yourself on a topic, don't discuss it and make yourself out to be the end-all be-all of opinions on that matter, because there's probably going to be 200 people that are going to be so much smarter than you about it, and probably all of them are going to be the demonized, mentally disturbed circus freak, skirt-wearing transgender that you so love to throw under the bus all the time. So, to all my transgender people out there, and to everyone who actually graduated high school, you're not alone. You're smart. You're valid. You belong. You're not abnormal. You are not a defect. You are not a mistake resulting from whatever you think. Anyway, I'm getting off topic again. Bottom line is, don't pay those idiots any mind. They don't know what the fuck they're talking about. They have no idea who you are. They have no idea what psychology or evolutionary biology is. And unless they're your doctor, you can just tell them to fuck off because they're ignorant. And the only thing they're pushing is their own hateful, bigoted, narrow-minded agenda. So, if you can't do anything else, don't stoop to their level. Don't insult them because you want to be better than them. They see you as the threat to society. They see you as the Billy the Kid of the whole country. They see you as the shadow lurking in the darkness waiting to snatch their child from sight. Don't give them the satisfaction of becoming that person while defending yourself. They're gonna want to rile you up, and it's gonna be very easy to rile you up because they'll know what buttons to push. But why should you get mad about something that isn't true? Why should you get mad about someone calling you a girl when you're not? Why should you get mad about somebody calling you a man or a boy when you're not? Why should you get mad over something that's not even true? Just don't even waste the energy on them, because if you turn around and stay sweet to them and try to educate them instead of insult them, they'll have nothing to do but huff and puff and stomp their oversensitive feet and just walk away and skulk back to their churches and their GOP meetings. Just don't even give those babies their bottle by proving them right that we're just violent, baby-raping Neanderthals. Because we're not. And another thing you can throw at them is all of Earth is different. Every plant, every animal, hell, rocks are different from one another. To make an argument that humans should be made from a cookie-cutter mold because, oh, transgender is the trend to be now, or gay is the trend to be now. Listen, being gay and being transgender was never a trend. Society has just unclenched so much in the past 30 years that we are starting to feel safe enough to come out into the open. So when they say that transgender isn't valid because it's a new trend, bring up that, oh, what's her name? There was a Roman emperor. I forget what her name is. Oh. So, anyway, yeah, when they say Elagabalus? I think that's how you pronounce her name. But yeah, Elagabalus was a transgender Roman empress. She was the leader of the Roman Empire. She was the ruler of the Roman Empire 2,000 years ago. And she was transgender. So when they bring up this whole transgender isn't valid because it's a new trend, be like, well, that's false because Roman Emperor Elagabalus was a transgender female. And and you may not have seen many transgender people in the past, but that was because up until the 60s, if you came out as a transgender person or even a gay person, you'd probably be disowned from your family, fired from your job, exiled from your town, and any new town you went to probably shot on sight. So, there's another thing, that transgender is not a choice. It can be measured in your brain. Anyway, I'm getting off subject with all the medical shit. I said I would read that later. I'm not getting into biology right now. I will get into biology later. But, yeah, this video is more for common sense arguments against transphobia. Which, really, that's all it should take, common sense. Because most of the arguments that they have that aren't backed by medical science or evidence or research see, I lost my train of thought again, are just are from their own opinions. They, like I said before, most transphobic people do not bother to research the biological supporters of the validity of transgenderism, so you can knock them on their ass just with common sense. So yeah, transgender is not invalid because it is a new trend. Transgender people, because of our continually more accepting society, feel more comfortable to come out as transgender in our society and culture, because nowadays we're much less likely to be gang raped and shot if we do come out as transgender. So that's just my and a lot of educated people's opinions. So yeah, those are just some of the thoughts that have been rattling around in my brain lately. I've just been getting real anxious because these people, they're clutching as tightly to their bigoted, narrow-minded opinions as people in the 18th century clutched their Bibles the first time they saw a Native American. So, like I said, transgender people, don't worry. We are out here to help you because we're just like you. Maybe not just like you, but we know what you're going through. And we know that what you're going through is valid. You are a woman. You are a man. You are a man and a woman. You're not a woman or a man. You are your own individual organism that is constantly evolving and changing and bettering yourself on this planet to make this planet better for other people that might be like you. So, when you're talking to these people, be a role model. If you were watching this altercation from the outside as another transgender person looking for guidance, educate with love and patience. And the louder those cishetes get, the redder their faces get, the closer they get to your face, just know that those are all symptoms of them struggling to reconcile their own bigotry in the face of scientifically and medically backed evidence that you have compiled for your own knowledge and intelligence, which they obviously never bothered to do. So, just be safe out there. Be happy out there. And be yourself. Because there's nobody else like you. And it takes many ones to make a whole. And without all of us as one, there would be no whole. There would be no American, continually diversifying American culture to be proud of. And the reason why they're getting so angry is because they know that they're losing their white picket fence, whites and blacks only segregated America that their tobacco spitting mammy and grandpappy grew up in. And if they don't want to educate themselves and stay pace with the knowledge that is out there for them to freely obtain, then they're choosing to be ignorant. They're choosing to be hateful. They're choosing to be intolerant and bigoted. And it's their choice to be on the wrong side of history. So the only thing you can do if they do rile you up is just educate them on why they're wrong. Say, well, I'm sorry to disagree with you, but ... And I'm sorry if you feel like that doesn't hold true to what you believe, but like you say, Mr. Bigot, feelings don't trump facts. They like to throw that card at us a lot, like us, like SJWs like to say, feelings don't trump facts, and it's like, well, you willing to wear that shoe on the other foot? So, anyways, I'll try to read more about all this, and if you guys have any questions or additional comments or anything like that, if you like this video at all, please share and subscribe, because there might be somebody out there who's struggling right now with this issue, from peer pressure, that they might actually be diseased, they might actually be suffering from a delusion because those people just get to them that much. Please share this video for that person, and just to educate the people who aren't willing to learn around us, so that maybe you can educate them and piss them off for me. So, alright, that's it. Y'all have a good one.